I've applied to thousands of jobs and I still haven't landed a job. I talked to hundreds of people who are in this same position. I'm going to give you a breakdown of how you can figure out how to get better and how to actually land interviews and ultimately get a job. The first question you need to ask is, out of those thousands of applications, how many companies are actually calling you back? Now, you're going to want to see about a 1 to 3% response rate, meaning for every 100 jobs you apply to, you hear back from 1 to 3 of those companies saying, yes, we want to move you forward. If you are not hearing back from any companies, that means there's an issue with your resume, or you're just applying the jobs that you are not qualified for. When you look at qualification for a job, you look at all of the requirements on the job description, you need to at least meet 70 to 80% of those requirements, maybe a little bit lower, but in this market, it's ultra competitive, and you actually have a lot of people who are overqualified applying for those jobs as well. Another way to figure out if you're qualified for the job is just to look at the company, look at their competitors, and see if you worked at one of their competitors doing a similar job. That's a dead giveaway that you're actually qualified. But if you're just shooting your shot or applying to random jobs, that's not a good strategy. So you need to dial that in first. Then, if you are applying to qualified jobs and you're not hearing back, then it's your resume. And you just need to fix your resume until you start getting called backs. Some of the biggest mistakes that I see on resumes are they're just describing the tasks and responsibilities versus the impact and the metrics behind the work that you're doing. You basically want to describe to them what is the actual impact of the work that you've done. And if you can't articulate that, you need to go back, you need to have some introspection, you need to figure out what value you're actually bringing to businesses. Now, if you are getting callbacks and you're getting into the interview, typically the interview is in multiple stages. You have a screening stage with HR or recruiting, where they're basically just trying to figure out, are you qualified, interested, and affordable? Then you move into the hiring manager interviews, where you're actually interviewing with your potential boss, maybe even colleagues, maybe even executives at the company. If you start to see a common pattern, like, for example, you're not getting past a screening call, then you need to go back and you need to figure out, what are you saying in those screening calls and how can you actually do better? The best thing about interviewing is you can always improve. So if you're in this situation, just figure out where everything is breaking down, if you can see a trend, and get better. You need to work on it. And just know, it is hard work right now in 2025, and you are not alone. The job market's absolutely cooked.